With us now just a number of days out from the heavyweight title showdown between Stipe Miocic and Francis Ngannou, the time is perfect for me to give my take on how I see this bout playing out. But just to backtrack first for a moment, when these two first met at UFC 220, I'm not going to say that I was the only one to pick Miocic to get the job done, far from it, but it was pretty clear to see what narrative was being driven. At the time I was working full-time in MMA journalism, and in that role I would fire out a few major prediction pieces from time to time, mainly for fun but also as a means of setting the table for those about to tune in on the night itself. And sometimes when doing so I would find myself analysing just how prevalent UFC promotional material has been in shaping our views on how these contests will play out. As Dana and his team pushed a narrative that was focused purely on the untested Ngannou and his inhuman punching power, at the time I did believe that Stipe was getting disrespected on a very serious level. I backed him to take home the win on the scorecards after a performance that was virtually identical to the one he actually turned in. Stipe braved the storm, proved himself to have power of his own, and once the stamina of Ngannou started to wane, he began to thoroughly dominate. I don't get all of my predictions right by any means, but this was one that could have been called from a mile off. And I suppose what I'm building to is that now at UFC 260, with Ngannou's terrifying aura restored and Stipe still in possession of the belt, it would be easy to make the assumption that we're about to see something very similar. That we're about to see another case of the Ngannou hype train being brought to a resounding halt due to his own overdependence on that one finishing blow. But in all honesty, I think this is a very, very different fight this time around. There is this weird notion that MMA fans often have, where if we have seen one fight between two fighters, we've seen enough to inform our takes on the second. Look at Ngannou versus Derek Lewis. Ask most fight fans how they would feel if that bout was booked for a second time, and they'll likely respond in disgust. I know that's not all of you, but it is a sizable portion nonetheless. And look, in many ways, the wounds that were caused by that first showdown are still quite raw. But I'd honestly love to see that bout again, because at this point in time, Lewis might have the single best chance in the division of cracking Ngannou's granite chin. And even though it was a stinker at the first time of asking, that means very little given where both guys are now in their careers. And when it comes to Miocic Ngannou too, I think to disrespect Francis's ability to improve because of his limited octagon time is nothing short of madness. Though his 4 straight victories that have been finished in less than a round combined have left him unable to showcase his work in those 4 training camps, Ngannou fought Stipe on the back of just 4 years as a pro fighter. To say that he was rushed into a title shot is an almighty understatement. Now a far more experienced competitor and mixed martial artist, one who has tasted both the highs and the lows of competing within the UFC, over 3 years on, Ngannou isn't this green, untested prospect whose physicality could be pointed to as his only elite attribute. He's got Kamaru Usman working in his corner, a lot more time spent within the limelight dealing with the pressure of being a celebrity, and he's facing off against a guy who he has spent 5 rounds of time with already. And I think that makes him an astronomically greater threat to Stipe this time around. If you're enjoying this video, be sure to leave a like before subscribing to the channel to keep the MMA dive train moving ahead. And I think this time around, as far as the champ himself is concerned, Stipe Miocic has already set his legacy in stone, already proven himself to be just as good as his billing suggests. Through his trilogy with Daniel Cormier, he showed his mettle and adaptability to their fullest, besting the former 2-weight world champion to definitively end their rivalry with him still on top. And I think this time around he'll be just as comfortable in his role as the betting underdog as he was initially at UFC 220, perhaps even more so. At 38 he has indeed added more damage and octagon time to his engine. Those 3 fights with DC, and in particular that loss in their first showdown, could well prove to be the thing that loosens up Stipe's usually hardened chin enough to allow one strike from Ngannou to bring about fight-ending consequences. That's not necessarily a fact, but look, 3 years and 3 outings against one of the world's best could well be the difference between UFC 220's headliner and UFC 260. Again, no one is more appreciative of what Stipe brings to the table than I am. I've been hyping this guy up for years, and honestly I can't remember the last time I picked against him, and for my money there is every chance that he once again proves his greatness by shutting down Ngannou completely to retain the title. But if I'm going to make an official prediction for this matchup, I'm actually going to side with Francis Ngannou to get it done early. Before, he wasn't ready, and the world wasn't ready to accept the greatness of Stipe Miocic. But 3 years is a very long time in a weight class as volatile as the heavyweight division. And though we haven't seen much from Francis, he does appear to be a more measured fighter in his approach from the opening bell, obviously with the Jairzinho-Rosenstruck fight being the exception. And I think if he can make this a more measured and a less desperate performance and warm into the contest to some extent, I believe that he will find Stipe's Stipe's chin, and in that moment, perhaps due to Miocic being a shade slower or a touch less resilient, I think he'll be able to put the champ to sleep. This is not the prediction I expected to make, but upon watching tape and thinking about it deeply, I do believe that we're about to see a new and positively terrifying era of the heavyweight division begin on Saturday night. And if Ngannou can in fact defeat Stipe, it's very hard to know who exactly will be able to remove him from his throne. But how do you see this battle for the heavyweight title playing out? Will it be the grit and veteran savvy of the champion Stipe Miocic that wins it out on the night? Or has the time come for Francis Ngannou to claim the belt and bring about a fearsome new era atop the sport's most historically significant division? Do let us know in the comment section below. Let's get a discussion going. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to leave a like before subscribing to the channel so you can stay up to date with all of our latest uploads. Thank you for watching.